My name is Emily Sullivan. I'm 62 years old, and I live in a small house on Maple Drive in Spokane, Washington. What I'm about to tell you happened 8 months ago and changed my life forever. This is real. This happened to me.
Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching.
It was a Tuesday morning when my daughter-in-law Vanessa barged into my house without knocking. I was in the kitchen, washing the breakfast dishes in my old Kenmore sink. The same sink where I'd washed Robert's work shirts for 30 years before cancer took him in 2015. The smell of coffee still hung in the air, mixed with the faint scent of the roses I'd planted in the backyard last April. I heard her heels clicking on my linoleum floor before I saw her. Sharp, impatient clicks that made my chest tighten the way it always did when she visited. Emily. Not Mom. Never Mom. Just my first name, like I was some acquaintance she barely tolerated. I turned, drying my hands on the dishcloth Robert's mother had embroidered 40 years ago. Vanessa stood in my kitchen doorway wearing yoga pants that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill and a white crop top that showed her flat, tanned stomach. Her blonde hair was pulled into a perfect ponytail, and her face had that hard, annoyed expression I'd come to recognize over the 6 years since she'd married my only son, Brian. "I'm dropping the boys off," she said, not waiting for me to respond. Tyler and Lucas appeared behind her, my grandsons, 5 and 3 years old, clutching their iPads like life preservers. "Try to be useful for once, since you clearly have no purpose in life." The words hit me like a slap. I felt my face get hot, that burning shame that starts in your chest and spreads up your neck. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat had closed up the way it always did when she spoke to me like this. "Vanessa, they need lunch at noon. Nothing with gluten. Lucas is being tested for sensitivities." She was already turning away, her designer purse swinging from her shoulder. "I'll be back around 4. Try not to let them watch too much TV. Although God knows you probably spent your whole life in front of one." She was gone before I could respond, the front door slamming so hard the picture frames on my wall rattled. One of them, a photo of Brian at his college graduation, tilted sideways. I'd paid $34,000 for that degree, working double shifts at the hospital, eating ramen noodles for dinner so he could have a future. Tyler looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Brian's eyes, before Vanessa changed him into someone I barely recognized. "Grandma, are you okay?" I forced a smile, the same smile I'd been forcing for 6 years. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's see what we can make for lunch." The boys settled in the living room with their tablets while I made sandwiches with the expensive almond butter Vanessa insisted they eat. My hands were shaking as I spread it on the gluten-free bread that cost $7 to $50 a loaf. I kept hearing her words. No purpose in life. 40 years as a nurse. 30 years married to a good man who died too soon. Raising a son by myself after Robert passed. Working 60-hour weeks so Brian wouldn't feel the difference. And now, at 62, I was being told I had no purpose by a 35-year-old woman who'd never worked a real job in her life. I remembered March, just 5 months ago. Brian had needed emergency surgery for a complicated hernia. The insurance covered most of it, but there was still $47,000 in medical bills. I'd sold my wedding ring, the gold band Robert had saved 3 months' salary to buy in 1983, to pay for it. The absence of that ring on my finger was a constant ache, a daily reminder of what I'd given up. Brian had cried when I told him, said he'd pay me back. But that was before Vanessa found out. After that, the subject was never mentioned again. The ring was gone, and so, apparently, was my son's memory. I was pulling the crusts off Lucas's sandwich when I noticed Vanessa's coat draped over my kitchen chair. She must have forgotten it in her rush to escape my depressing house and my purposeless life. I picked it up, intending to hang it by the door, when something fell out of the pocket and fluttered to the floor, a receipt. I bent down and picked it up, and my heart stopped. Serenity Day Spa and Wellness Center. Date, June 15th, 2024. Services, deep tissue massage, 90 mini-eye, $180 infrared sauna session, $95 organic facial treatment, $240 aromatherapy. Add-on, $75 champagne service, $45 retail products, La Mer cream, etc. $255 total, $890, $0 payment. Visa ending in 4382, $890. On a single spa day. I stood there in my kitchen, holding that receipt, and something inside me cracked. This was the same woman who'd told me last month that they couldn't afford to help with groceries when I'd had the flu. The same woman who'd said they were financially stretched when I'd asked if they could chip in for Tyler's birthday present. A $40 Lego set I'd ended up buying myself. My sister Carol had been there that day, visiting from Seattle. She'd seen the whole exchange, watched me pull out my worn leather wallet to pay for my own grandson's gift, while Vanessa scrolled through her phone, showing off photos of her new Gucci purse. "You're so generous, Emily," Carol had said, but there'd been something in her voice I couldn't quite read. Something that sounded almost like satisfaction. I tucked the receipt into my apron pocket and went back to making lunch, but my mind was racing. $890. How many spa days had there been? How much money was Vanessa spending while telling us, that they were struggling? I took a deep breath and called the boys to the table. Tyler devoured his sandwich in silence, but Lucas pushed his plate away, making a face. "Grandma, I want pizza," he whined. "Your mom said no gluten, honey. Pizza has gluten." "But Mommy eats pizza," Tyler protested, and my heart squeezed. Of course she did. The rules were only for everyone else, never for her. After lunch, I sat on the faded navy blue sofa, the same one Robert and I had bought in 2004, and watched my grandsons play. Tyler built a tower with old blocks that had been Brian's. Lucas drew with crayons in a coloring book that cost $1.99 at Dollar Tree. They were good boys, sweet, funny, full of energy, and I loved them more than my own life. But every time Vanessa dropped them off, always without warning, always with some cruel comment, I wondered if she was raising them to have the same contempt for me that she did. At 3:47 p.m., my phone rang, an iPhone 7 that was 6 years old with a cracked screen in the upper right corner. Vanessa had an iPhone 14 Pro, which she upgraded every year. I saw her name on the screen and answered. "Emily, I'm running late. Can you keep them until 7? Not a please, not a would you mind, just the command. Vanessa, I have a doctor's appointment at 6 and cancel it. It's not like you have anything important to do." And she hung up. I stared at the black screen of my phone, feeling tears burn in my eyes. I didn't cry. I'd learned a long time ago that crying didn't change anything. It just made you look weak, and weak people got trampled even more. I canceled the appointment. It was just my annual checkup, nothing urgent. Vanessa was right. I didn't have anything important to do. Just exist. Just be useful when they needed a free babysitter. When she finally showed up at 7:23 p.m., more than 2 hours late, the boys had already eaten buttered noodles, bathed in my old tub, and put on the pajamas I kept here for these occasions. Vanessa walked in without knocking, a Sephora shopping bag in her hand. I recognized the pink and black logo. "Did they behave?" she asked, looking at her phone. "They were wonderful," I replied, my voice raspier than I wanted. She grabbed her coat from the chair. That's when I noticed something else falling from the pocket. A credit card statement. She didn't see it. She was busy helping Lucas put on his shoes. I bent down quickly, grabbed the folded paper, and stuffed it into my apron pocket with the spa receipt. "Bye, Emily," Vanessa said over her shoulder. "Same time Thursday," and they were gone. I waited until their van disappeared. Then I locked the door, turned off all the lights except the kitchen one, and sat at the Formica table where Brian used to do homework. I unfolded the statement with trembling hands. Capital One Visa, account ending in 4382, statement date, June 2024. Previous balance, 8,450. Zero payments, 0. New charges, 4890. Zero. Current balance, 13,240. 0. I scanned the purchases. Sephora, $640. Nordstrom, $1,200. Whole Foods, $380. Another Serenity Spa charge, $890. Lululemon, $540. Starbucks 3 times a day, adding up to $340 just on coffee. $13,340 on one card alone. And at the bottom, minimum payment due. $380. Payment 45 days overdue. Late fee of $40 applied. The account was overdue. They owed money. But Vanessa kept spending like there was no tomorrow. I picked up my coffee mug, the one with the painted flower that Brian gave me when he was 8, cracked at the handle but still functional, and held it tight. I was trembling, not from fear, from anger, because suddenly everything made sense. Why Vanessa always needed loans, why Brian always seemed tense about money, why they lived in a fancy $2,100 a month condo but never had money for anything, and why I, the useless old woman with no purpose, was so important to them. It wasn't love, it wasn't family, it was because I was the safety net, the emergency bank account, the free babysitter, the fool who sold her wedding ring to pay for surgery, who worked holidays to pay for college, who accepted insults because she was afraid of losing her only son. I stood up, went to the kitchen drawer where I kept important papers, and pulled out an old manila folder. Inside, I placed the spa receipt and the credit card statement. I didn't know yet what I was going to do with this, but I knew one thing. I I wasn't going to pretend I didn't see it anymore. I was 62 years old, 40 of those years spent taking care of everyone but myself. Maybe it was time to change that. 3 days later, on Friday evening, Brian called. My heart jumped the way it always did when I saw his name on my screen. Even after everything, he was still my son, my only child. Hey, Mom. Vanessa and I want to take you to dinner tomorrow. The wooden table. 7 o'clock. Can you make it? The wooden table was a steakhouse downtown. Mid-range, not fancy, but not cheap either. We'd gone there twice before. Once for my birthday 3 years ago, once for Brian's promotion. Both times I'd insisted on paying. Of course, honey. I'd love to. Great. See you then. He hung up before I could say anything else. No, I love you. No, how are you doing? Just the logistics. I should have known something was wrong. Saturday night, I put on my nicest dress, a navy blue one I'd bought at Macy's in 2019, and drove my 2011 Honda Civic to the restaurant. Brian and Vanessa were already there, sitting at a corner table. Vanessa wore a black dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Brian wore a button-down shirt and looked nervous. Hi, Mom, Brian said, standing to hug me. The hug was quick, obligatory. Emily, Vanessa said, not looking up from her phone. We ordered. Vanessa got a $45 steak. Brian got salmon for $38. I ordered a $22 chicken Caesar salad because I didn't want to seem like I was taking advantage. The irony wasn't lost on me. We made small talk for 20 minutes. Tyler's soccer practice, Lucas's preschool, the weather, nothing real, nothing that mattered. Then Vanessa put down her wine glass, her third glass I'd been counting, and looked at me with those cold blue eyes. Emily, we need to talk about something important. My stomach tightened. Here it was. Whatever this dinner was really about. Brian and I have been talking, and we've decided to renovate our kitchen. It's completely outdated, and with my online presence growing, I need a space that's Instagram-worthy for my content. Her online presence. Vanessa had 3,400 followers on Instagram, where she posted photos of herself in workout clothes and motivational quotes she didn't write. That sounds nice, I said carefully. The thing is, Brian cut in, his voice tight, the renovation is going to cost about $15,000, and we're a little short right now. We were hoping you could help us out. As a loan, of course. We'd pay you back. $15,000. I thought about the $890 spa receipt, the $13,340 in credit card debt, the $47,000 I'd already given them for Brian's surgery, the $12,300 in loans over the past 5 years that had never been repaid. That's a lot of money, I said slowly. Mom, we wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, Brian said. Our kitchen is falling apart. The cabinets are from the 90s. I'd seen their kitchen 2 months ago. The cabinets were fine. White, modern, perfectly functional. I'll have to think about it, I said. Vanessa's face hardened. Think about it? Emily, we're family. Family helps each other. I understand, but $15,000 is almost all of my savings. I need to be careful with, you're being selfish, Vanessa cut in, her voice sharp enough that the couple at the next table looked over. Brian has done everything for you. He calls you, visits you, brings his children to see you, and when we ask for one thing, you can't even give us a straight answer. My face burned with shame. The restaurant suddenly felt too hot, too bright, too exposed. Brian didn't defend me. He just stared at his salmon. I'm not saying no, I said quietly. I just need time to think about it. How much time? Vanessa pressed. Because the contractor needs a deposit next week, and if we don't have it, we lose our spot in his schedule. Next week, they needed $15,000 in a week. The check came, $187. Brian looked at it, looked at me, and I knew what was coming. I pulled out my worn wallet and handed over my credit card. The waitress took it without a word. We left the restaurant in silence. As I walked to my car, I heard Vanessa's voice behind me. Thank you for dinner, Emily. Not for considering the loan, just for the dinner. As if that was the least I could do. I drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel. When I got inside, I went straight to the bathroom and threw up. The $22 chicken salad I'd been too anxious to finish came back up in acidic waves. I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and looked at myself in the mirror. The same tired eyes, the same worry lines. But something else was there now, something cold. I went to my bedroom and pulled out the manila folder, the spa receipt, the credit card statement. And now I had a new piece of information. They wanted $15,000, and they wanted it fast. I sat on my bed and did something I hadn't done in years. I called my sister Carol in Seattle. Emily, it's almost 11. Is everything okay? Carol, I need to talk to you about something. I told her everything, the insults, the constant demands for money. The dinner tonight. The $15,000. There was a long silence on the other end. Carol? Emily? She said finally, and her voice sounded strange. Careful. You have to help them. Brian is your only son. If you don't help him now, you might lose him forever. Her words felt wrong, off somehow. But Carol, they already owe me so much money and… Family is more important than money, Carol interrupted. Mom always said that. You remember? Mom. Our mother had died 10 years ago, and yes, she'd always said family came first. But Mom had also worked herself to death taking care of everyone else, and she'd died alone in a nursing home while Carol and I were too busy to visit. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think too long, Carol said. You don't want to lose your son over $15,000. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Even my own sister was pressuring me. Even Carol thought I should give them the money. I got up to get a glass of water, and that's when I saw it. A text message from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. Give them what they want, or things will get very difficult for you. Old women have accidents all the time. My blood ran cold. I read it again. And again. Someone was threatening me. I screenshot the message with shaking hands and added it to my manila folder. Then I sat at my kitchen table in the dark, with the cracked coffee mug in front of me, and a terrible realization sinking in. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about control, about making me so small, so scared, so grateful for scraps of attention that I'd give them everything I had. And the worst part? It was working. I didn't sleep that night. I kept reading the text message over and over, the words burning into my brain. Old women have accidents all the time. Was it Vanessa? Brian? Someone they'd hired? The number was blocked. Untraceable. I'd tried calling it back. It went straight to a recording saying the number was not in service. Sunday morning came with gray skies and the smell of rain. I made coffee in my old percolator and sat at the kitchen table, the manila folder open in front of me. 3 pieces of evidence now. The spa receipt, the credit card statement, the threatening text. Not enough. Not yet. I needed more before I could do anything. Before I could confront them. Before I could protect myself. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I spent the day cleaning. It's what I always did when I was anxious. Scrub the floors, wash the windows, organize the closets, keep moving so I didn't have to think. My knees ached by the time I finished, but the house looked better than it had in months. That evening, Brian called. Hey, Mom, have you thought about the loan? Loan, not gift, as if any of the money I'd given them had ever come back. Brian, I need a little more time to… Mom, the contractor needs an answer by Wednesday. If we don't give him the deposit, we lose our spot. Wednesday, 3 days from now. Can I at least see the estimate? The contract? There was a pause. Why would you need to see that? Because $15,000 is a lot of money, honey. I just want to make sure you don't trust us. His voice had gone cold. After everything we've done for you, you don't trust us. Everything they'd done for me, I'd paid for his surgery, his college, his wedding. I'd babysat his children hundreds of times without ever asking for a dime. What exactly had they done for me? Brian, that's not what I… You know what, Mom? Forget it. We'll figure it out ourselves. We don't need your help. Brian, wait. He'd hung up. I stared at my phone, that old cracked iPhone 7, and felt something crack inside me, too. He'd made me feel guilty for asking to see a contract, for wanting to protect my own money. The next few weeks blurred together. Brian didn't call, didn't text, didn't answer when I tried to reach him. Vanessa posted photos on Instagram. New kitchen cabinets, gleaming white with gold hardware, a fancy espresso machine on the marble counter. They'd done the renovation anyway, without my money. So where had they gotten $15,000? Mother's Day came on a Sunday in early May. I woke up hoping, stupidly, that Brian might call, that maybe he'd bring the boys over, that we could spend the day together the way we used to. I set the table for 4, like I had every Mother's Day since the boys were born. I made Tyler's favorite, cinnamon French toast, and Lucas's favorite, scrambled eggs with cheese. I bought orange juice and set out the nice plates, the ones with the blue flowers that had been my mother's. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Sorry, Mom. Vanessa planned something with her family today. Maybe next weekend. Maybe next weekend. Which meant no. I stared at that table set for 4, at the French toast getting cold, at the scrambled eggs congealing, at my phone that hadn't rung with a Happy Mother's Day from my only child. I sat down in the chair where Robert used to sit and I cried. Really cried. For the first time in months. ugly, gasping sobs that made my chest hurt and my eyes burn. When I finally stopped, it was past noon. I cleared the table, threw away the uneaten food, washed the dishes. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went into the closet and pulled down the box of Robert's things, his watch, his wedding ring, his reading glasses, and underneath it all, letters. Letters he'd written to me during the 6 months of his cancer treatment. Letters I couldn't bear to read after he died because they hurt too much. I opened the box and pulled one out at random. It was dated March 2015, 2 months before he died. My dearest Emily, the doctors say I have maybe 8 weeks left. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of leaving you alone. Not because you can't take care of yourself. You're the strongest person I've ever known. But because I know you'll spend whatever time you have left taking care of everyone else and forgetting to take care of yourself. Promise me something. When I'm gone, don't let people use you. Don't let them make you small. You've given so much to Brian, and he's a good boy, but he needs to learn to stand on his own feet. Don't let him or anyone else take advantage of your kindness. You deserve to be happy, Emily, not just useful. Happy. I love you more than all the stars in the sky, Robert. I read it 3 times, 4 times, 5. Don't let them make you small. But I had. I'd let myself become invisible. A doormat. Someone whose only value was what she could give. I thought about the $890 spa receipt, the $13,340 in credit card debt, the threatening text message, the Mother's Day. I was spending alone while Vanessa posted Instagram photos of brunch with her family. I picked up my phone and opened my call history. 6 calls to Brian in the past 2 weeks, all unanswered, all going straight to voicemail. He'd blocked me, or Vanessa had blocked me on his phone. Either way, the message was clear. I was only welcome when they needed something. My neighbor Ruth knocked on the door around 3 o'clock. She was holding a small potted plant, pink carnations. "Happy Mother's Day, Emily," she said softly. "I thought you might like some company." I let her in, and we sat on my faded blue sofa drinking tea. She didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer explanations. But after a while, she said something that changed everything. My daughter did the same thing to me 15 years ago, bled me dry financially, then disappeared when there was nothing left to take. It took me 3 years to realize she was never going to change. And you know what I learned? What? That sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the worst. And that's not love. That's just exploitation wrapped in guilt. After Ruth left, I sat alone in the dark. The house felt bigger than it ever had, emptier. I walked through the rooms Robert and I had filled with 40 years of memories. The kitchen where we'd cooked together, the living room where we'd watched movies, the bedroom where he'd died in my arms. This house was mine, paid off, worth $285,000 according to the last assessment. And suddenly, I understood what Brian and Vanessa really wanted. Not $15,000 for a kitchen renovation. They wanted the house. They wanted me out of the way so they could sell it, pay off their debts, start over. I went to the kitchen drawer and pulled out my copy of the will I'd made after Robert died. Everything was left to Brian. The house, my savings, my pension, everything. I'd been so worried about taking care of him after I was gone that I'd never thought about what would happen if he decided to speed up the timeline. Old women have accidents all the time. I put the will back in the drawer and pulled out the manila folder instead. 3 pieces of evidence, not enough to go to the police, not enough to protect myself, but enough to start asking the right questions. I opened my laptop, the old Dell that was slower than molasses, and searched for Private Investigator Spokane, Washington. 3 results came up. I clicked on the first one, Davidson Investigations, licensed, bonded, 20 years of experience. The office was closed for Mother's Day, but there was an email address. I typed slowly, carefully. "My name is Emily Sullivan. I believe my family is planning something that will harm me financially or physically. I need someone to investigate. I have some evidence already. Please call me at your earliest convenience." I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I went to my bedroom and pulled out the box of jewelry I'd kept since my mother died. Most of it was costume jewelry, worthless. But there was one piece, a diamond pendant my father had given my mother on their 50th anniversary. Small, maybe half a carat, but real. I'd been saving it for Brian. For his wife, whoever she turned out to be. For the daughter-in-law I'd hoped would be part of our family. I looked at it sparkling in the lamplight and made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd take it to a jeweler and get it appraised. If I needed money for a private investigator, for a lawyer, for whatever came next, I'd sell it. Some things were more valuable than diamonds. Like dignity, like safety, like finally, after 62 years, learning to put myself first. I put the pendant in my purse and looked at myself in the mirror one last time before bed. I looked old, tired, sad, but I didn't look defeated. Not yet. The next morning, Monday, I woke up at 6 a.m. to my phone ringing. Unknown number. Mrs. Sullivan, this is James Davidson from Davidson Investigations. I got your email. Can you come to my office this morning? I had a cancellation. Yes, I said without hesitation. What time? 9 o'clock. 412 West Riverside Avenue, Suite 304. I wrote down the address with shaking hands. Mrs. Sullivan, one more thing. Yes? If you believe you're in physical danger, you need to call the police right now. I can help you gather evidence, but I can't protect you from immediate harm. I understand, I said. I'll be careful. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed and thought about that text message, about the cold look in Vanessa's eyes, about Brian's silence. Was I really in danger, or was I just a paranoid old woman who'd watched too many crime shows? But then I remembered Robert's letter. Don't let them make you small. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being smart. I got dressed, put the diamond pendant in my purse along with the manila folder, and drove to the jeweler first. The elderly man behind the counter examined the pendant under his loupe for a long time. Excellent quality, he finally said. Half carat, VS1 clarity. I can give you $2,800. $2,800. Enough for a private investigator. Enough to start fighting back. I'll take it, I said. He counted out the money in $100 bills, and I put them in an envelope in my purse. Then I drove to 412 West Riverside Avenue to meet the man who might help me save my life. James Davidson's office was on the third floor of an old building that smelled like coffee and copy paper. The carpet was beige and worn, and his desk was buried under manila folders that looked just like mine. He was maybe 55, with gray hair and tired eyes that had probably seen everything. He shook my hand and gestured to the chair across from his desk. Mrs. Sullivan, tell me what's going on. I opened my manila folder and spread the contents on his desk. The spa receipt, the credit card statement, the threatening text message. Then I told him everything. The insults, the constant demands for money, the $47,000 I'd paid for Brian's surgery, the Mother's Day I'd spent alone. He listened without interrupting, taking notes in a small leather notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me for a long moment. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm going to be direct with you. What you're describing is financial elder abuse. It's a crime, and if that text message is a real threat, and I believe it is, you could be in serious danger. The words elder abuse hit me like a slap. I wasn't being paranoid. This was real. What can you do? I asked. I can investigate your daughter-in-law's finances. Where the money's really going, how much debt they actually have, whether there are any other concerning patterns. It'll take about 2 weeks and cost $2,800. The exact amount I had in my purse from selling my mother's pendant. When can you start? Today. I handed him the envelope of $100 bills. He counted them, wrote me a receipt, and pulled out a contract. One more thing, Mrs. Sullivan. Don't tell anyone you've hired me. Not your son, not your sister, not your friends. The more they think you're isolated and helpless, the safer you are until I finish the investigation. I signed the contract with shaking hands. I'll call you in 2 weeks, he said. Maybe sooner if I find something urgent. I drove home in a daze. For the first time in months, I felt like I was doing something instead of just accepting whatever they did to me. That afternoon, I did something else I should have done months ago. I called my insurance company. Pacific Life Insurance, this is Jennifer. How can I help you? Hi, Jennifer. My name is Emily Sullivan. I have a life insurance policy with you, and I'd like to make some changes. Of course, Mrs. Sullivan. Can I have your policy number? I read it off the old paperwork I'd found in the filing cabinet. There was a pause while she pulled up my account. Okay, I see your policy here. $250,000, with your son Brian Sullivan listed as sole beneficiary. What changes would you like to make? My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could hear it through the phone. I'd like to remove him as beneficiary and designate a charity instead. Another pause. Longer this time. Mrs. Sullivan, are you sure? This is a significant change. I'm sure. All right. I'll need to send you some paperwork. You'll need to sign it and have it notarized. The change will take effect once we receive the documents. How soon can you send them? I can email them to you today. You should have them within an hour. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and thought about what I'd just done. If something happened to me, if I had an accident, Brian would get nothing. The money would go to the American Cancer Society in Robert's memory. Let's see how eager they were to speed up my death when there was no payout. The paperwork arrived in my email an hour later. I printed it at the library, signed it in front of a notary at the bank, and mailed it that same day with tracking. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Emily, we need to talk." Her voice was different, sharp, almost frantic. "About what?" "Don't play stupid. We know what you did with the life insurance." My blood ran cold. How did she know? The change wasn't even official yet. "I don't know what you're talking about. You changed the beneficiary. Brian called the insurance company to ask about the policy, and they told him it was being modified. How could you do that, after everything we've done for you?" So Brian had been calling to check on my life insurance, like he was monitoring an investment. "That's my decision to make, Vanessa. You're making a huge mistake. Brian is your only son, your only family. If you cut him out, I haven't cut him out of anything. The policy is mine to manage as I see fit." "You bitter old bitch." The sweetness was completely gone from her voice now. "You're going to regret this." She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, my hands trembling. But underneath the fear was something else, something cold and hard and almost satisfying. Good. Let her panic. Let her realize I wasn't as helpless as she thought. 2 days later, I got a call from James Davidson. "Mrs. Sullivan, I need to see you immediately. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" "What did you find?" "Not over the phone. Can you be here at 3? I was there at 2:45. Davidson's desk had even more folders on it now, and his expression was grim. "Mrs. Sullivan, sit down. What I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear." He opened a thick folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "Your daughter-in-law, Vanessa, has a serious spending problem. In the past 6 months alone, she's charged over $43,000 on 5 different credit cards. Most of it on luxury items, spa treatments, designer clothes, expensive restaurants. $43,000. But that's not the worst part," he continued. "I found evidence of a bank account in the Cayman Islands in her name. It has approximately $18,700 in it." Where did that money come from? That's what I asked myself. So I dug deeper. He pulled out another document. "Your daughter-in-law has been running a small-scale fraud scheme. She's been telling her Instagram followers she's a wellness consultant and selling them personalized diet plans for $200 each. The plans are plagiarized from free websites. She's made about $30,000 this way in the past year." I felt sick. There's more. 3 months ago, someone made a wire transfer of $8,000 into that Cayman account. I traced it back to a bank in Seattle. Seattle? Where my sister Carol lived. Why would Carol send Vanessa $8,000? That's what you need to find out. But Mrs. Sullivan, I think your sister may be involved in whatever they're planning. He pulled out one more document, a printed email exchange he'd somehow obtained. Vanessa to Carol. "She's starting to ask questions. We need to move faster." Carol to Vanessa. "I'll keep pressuring her from my end. Just make sure Brian stays in line." Vanessa to Carol. "He will. He's weak. Always has been." The word swam in front of my eyes. My own sister, my own son being called weak by the woman he'd married. "Mrs. Sullivan, I need to tell you something else. That text message you received? I had a tech guy trace it. It came from a burner phone purchased at a Walmart in Spokane. The purchase was made on a credit card registered to Vanessa. She'd threatened me, directly. What should I do? First, you need to understand you're dealing with someone who has no moral boundaries. Vanessa is a con artist. She saw your son as an easy mark, someone with access to family money. Your sister Carol, I don't know her motivation yet, but she's definitely complicit. Can I go to the police? With what I've found? Yes. You can file a report for the threatening text message and the financial elder abuse. But, Mrs. Sullivan, here's what I recommend. Gather more evidence first. Let them think they're still in control. Then, when you have everything you need, you strike all at once. He handed me a thick folder. This is everything I found. Copies of credit card statements, the Cayman account information, the email exchanges, everything. Keep it somewhere safe. And Mrs. Sullivan? Yes? Watch your back. Vanessa is desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. I drove home with the folder on my passenger seat, my mind reeling. $43,000 in debt, $18,000 in a secret account, Carol sending her money, Brian being called weak. When I got home, there was a package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a single photo. It was me, taken through my kitchen window. I was sitting at my table, the manila folder open in front of me. Someone had been watching me. I grabbed my phone and called Davidson. Someone photographed me, in my own house. Get out, right now. Pack a bag and go to a hotel. I'm calling the police. I'm not leaving my house. Mrs. Sullivan. I'm not running. Not anymore. Instead, I did something that shocked even myself. I posted the photo on Facebook with a caption, "To whoever is threatening me. I've hired a private investigator. I know about the $43,000 in debt. I know about the Cayman account. I know about the fraud. I've changed my will and my life insurance. If anything happens to me, everything I know goes to the police. Try me." Within 5 minutes, my phone exploded. Brian called. I didn't answer. Vanessa called. I didn't answer. Carol called. I didn't answer. Then my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Ruth, my neighbor. "Emily, I saw your Facebook post. What's going on? Do you need help?" I let her in and told her everything, every detail. When I finished, she hugged me tight. "You're the bravest woman I've ever met," she said. "And you're not going through this alone." That night, I slept with my phone next to my pillow and a knife from the kitchen on my nightstand, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I was angry, and anger, I was learning, was so much more useful than fear. They showed up at my door at 7 a.m. the next morning. All three of them, Brian, Vanessa, and Carol. I'd been awake since 5, sitting at my kitchen table with the folder Davidson had given me, drinking coffee and waiting. I knew they'd come. The Facebook post had guaranteed it. Ruth was already there. She'd come over at 6 with a thermos of coffee and said, "I'm not leaving you alone with them." When the doorbell rang, I looked through the peephole. Brian looked haggard like he hadn't slept. Vanessa's face was tight with rage. Carol looked nervous. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "We need to talk," Brian said. His voice was flat, exhausted. "Then talk. Can we come inside?" "No." Vanessa's eyes flashed. "You're really going to make us stand on your porch like strangers?" "You are strangers. Strangers who threatened me, stalked me, and tried to steal from me." "That's insane," Vanessa snapped. "You're losing your mind, Emily. That Facebook post. Everyone thinks you're senile." "Good, let them think that, but we both know the truth." Brian stepped forward. "Mom, please, can we just talk? Without her?" He gestured toward Ruth, who stood behind me like a silent guardian. "Ruth stays. She's more family than you've been in 6 years." That hit him. I saw it in his face. The flinch. The guilt. Carol tried next. Her voice was soft, pleading. "Emily, sweetie, this has gotten out of hand. We're all just worried about you. You're making decisions that don't make sense. Changing your insurance, hiring investigators, posting crazy things online." "Crazy things?" I pulled out my phone and opened Davidson's folder. Like the $43,000 Vanessa charged on credit cards in 6 months. Like the Cayman Islands account with $18,000 from her Instagram fraud scheme. Like the $8,000 you sent her, Carol. Carol's face went white. "You thought I wouldn't find out," I continued. "You thought I was too stupid, too old, too trusting? Emily, I can explain. Then explain. Explain why my own sister sent money to the woman who's been abusing me for 6 years. Explain why you told me to give them $15,000 when you knew they were drowning in debt." Carol's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "I'll tell you why," I said. "Because Vanessa promised you a cut when I was gone, didn't she? When they sold my house, when they got the life insurance money, you'd get your share. That's not. Don't lie to me." My voice cracked. "I have the emails, Carol. The ones where you told Vanessa to move faster because I was starting to ask questions." Carol's face crumpled. "Emily, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. I thought they just needed help, and you had so much. And I've always struggled, and you were jealous." The words came out cold, hard. "You were jealous that Mom loved me more, that Robert loved me, that I had a happy marriage and you didn't, that I had enough money to retire comfortably and you're still working at 60. She didn't deny it. She just started crying. Brian looked like he'd been punched. "Aunt Carol, what is she talking about? What emails?" I handed him my phone. Let him read the messages between his aunt and his wife. Let him see exactly what kind of people he'd surrounded himself with. He read in silence, his face getting paler with each line. When he finished, he looked at Vanessa. "You called me weak. Baby, that was just... I didn't mean... You called me weak. You said I'd do whatever you wanted because I'm weak." "Brian, Please, let me explain. And you, he turned to Carol. You've been working with her behind my back? Planning what, exactly? Planning to take everything from my mother? Carol was sobbing now. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm so sorry. I needed the money, and Vanessa said it would be easy, and your mom has so much. She sold her wedding ring to pay for my surgery. Brian's voice rose, breaking. She worked 60-hour weeks to put me through college. She raised me alone after Dad died. And you think she has so much. He turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw my son, the real Brian, the one who wasn't buried under Vanessa's manipulation. Mom, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know about the Cayman account or the fraud or any of it. I thought we were just having money troubles. I thought if we asked you for help, it would be temporary and... You let her call me useless, I said quietly. You let her insult me in my own home. You blocked my calls. You spent Mother's Day with her family and sent me a text. I know. His voice broke completely now. I know, and I have no excuse. She made it seem like you were the problem. Like you were controlling and judgmental, and I believed her because it was easier than standing up to her. Vanessa exploded. This is bullshit. Brian, are you really going to believe her over me? I'm your wife. We're a team. A team? Brian's laugh was bitter. You've been stealing from my mother. You threatened her. You stalked her. You committed fraud. What kind of team is that? I did it for us. For our future. Your mother was never going to just give us money. I had to make plans. Had to be smart about it. Smart? I cut in. You think threatening to kill me is smart? I never said I'd kill you, Vanessa shrieked. That text was just supposed to scare you into cooperating. The words hung in the air. Ruth, still standing behind me, pulled out her phone. I'm recording this. Every word. Vanessa's face went from red to white in an instant. You can't do that. That's illegal. Washington is a two-party consent state for private conversations, Ruth said calmly. But we're standing on a porch in public view. This is perfectly legal. Brian sank down onto my porch steps, his head in his hands. Mom, what do I do? How do I fix this? You can't fix it, I said. Not today. Not next week. Maybe not ever. I'll divorce her. I'll do whatever it takes. Just please tell me there's a way back from this. I looked at my son, at the man who'd let his wife destroy our relationship, who'd been too weak, yes, weak, to stand up for his own mother. But I also saw the boy who'd made me that flower cup when he was 8, who'd cried at his father's funeral and held my hand, who'd once loved me before Vanessa convinced him I was worthless. Maybe, I said, but not while you're still with her. Not while Carol thinks she can manipulate me. Not while any of you think I'm just an ATM with feelings. Vanessa tried one last time. Emily, if you go to the police with any of this, I'll tell them you're senile, that you're making it all up, that you're a bitter old woman who's trying to destroy her son's marriage. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Go ahead, tell them. But then I'll show them the credit card statements, the Cayman account, the fraud victims who paid you $200 for plagiarized diet plans, the text message that came from a burner phone you purchased, the emails between you and Carol, the photo you took of me through my window. I pulled out Davidson's folder and held it up. I have everything, Vanessa. Every lie, every theft, every threat. You're done. Her face twisted into something ugly. You'll regret this. When Brian has nothing, when your grandchildren grow up hating you, when you die alone in this house, get off my property, I said. All of you, except Brian. Carol and Vanessa started to protest, but Brian stood up. Go, he said. Both of you. Just go. They left. Carol in her rental car, crying. Vanessa in her Mercedes, speeding down the street like she was being chased. Brian stood on my porch, looking at me with eyes full of tears. I'm so sorry, Mom. I don't know how to make this right. You can't. Not right now. But you can start by being honest. Did you know about any of it? The fraud, the Cayman account, the threats? No, I swear. I knew she spent too much. I knew we were in debt, but I didn't know. I didn't know she was stealing from you. I didn't know she threatened you, but you knew she was cruel to me. You saw it and did nothing. He nodded, fresh tears streaming down his face. I did, and I'll never forgive myself for that. I need you to leave now, I said. I need time. Maybe a lot of time. Maybe forever. Can I call you? In a few days? I'll think about it. He walked to his car like a man heading to his execution. I watched him drive away, then turn to Ruth. Thank you for being here. That's what real family does, she said. Inside, I sat at my kitchen table and looked at the folder of evidence. Tomorrow, I'd take it to the police. Tomorrow, I'd start the legal process of making sure Vanessa paid for what she'd done. But today, I just sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't felt in 6 years. Peace. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I'm moving out tonight. And Mom, I know sorry isn't enough, but I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that I can be the son you deserved. Even if you never forgive me, I have to try." I stared at that text for a long time. Then I wrote back, "We'll see." 3 months later, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of coffee and the morning newspaper. The headline on page 3 read, "Local woman pleads guilty to wire fraud, elder abuse." Vanessa had taken a plea deal. 2 years in federal prison, 5 years probation, full restitution of the money she'd stolen from her Instagram victims. The prosecutor had wanted to go to trial, but I'd agreed to the deal on one condition. She'd never contact me again. Carol hadn't been charged. The DA said her involvement was more moral failing than criminal conspiracy. She'd sent me one letter, 12 pages of apologies and excuses that I'd read once and thrown away. We hadn't spoken since that morning on my porch. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Brian had filed for divorce the day after the confrontation. He'd moved into a small apartment across town and started therapy twice a week. He called me every Sunday at 10 a.m. like clockwork. Sometimes I answered. Sometimes I didn't. Today, I answered, "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Brian. I wanted to ask you something. Tyler has a soccer game on Saturday. I know it's a lot to ask, but would you want to come? No pressure. I'd understand if you said no." I looked at my calendar. Saturday was blank. Most days were blank now. Not because I was lonely. I'd joined Ruth's book club, started volunteering at the hospital again, even taken a watercolor class at the community center. But because I'd learned to leave space in my life for things I actually wanted to do, not things I felt obligated to do. "What time?" I asked. I heard the surprise in his voice. "Really? 2 o'clock, at Jefferson Park. I'll be there. Mom, thank you. Tyler asks about you all the time. He misses you. I miss him too." After we hung up, I sat with my coffee and thought about forgiveness. Real forgiveness. Not the fake kind where you pretend everything's fine when it's not. Could I forgive Brian? Maybe. Someday. Could I trust him? That was harder. Dr. Chen, the therapist Brian had started seeing, had called me a few weeks ago to ask if I'd be willing to do a joint session. I'd said no. Maybe next month. Maybe never. Some things couldn't be rushed. The doorbell rang. It was Ruth with a plate of cookies. "Thought you might need these," she said. "I saw the newspaper." We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where so much pain had happened, and she told me about her daughter, the one who'd bled her dry 15 years ago. "We talk now," Ruth said. "Not often. Maybe once a month. She calls on my birthday, sends a card at Christmas. It's not what I wanted, but it's what I can have." "Do you regret cutting her off?" "No. I regret that she made it necessary. But the cutting off? That saved my life." After she left, I went to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I kept Robert's letters. I pulled out the one I'd read on Mother's Day and read it again. "Don't let them make you small." I hadn't. I'd fought back. I'd protected myself. And I'd survived. Saturday came. I drove to Jefferson Park and found Brian standing on the sideline, watching Tyler run across the field. He saw me and waved, but he didn't rush over. He was learning to give me space. Tyler scored a goal and ran to show me, his face bright with joy. "Grandma, did you see?" "I saw, sweetheart. That was wonderful." Lucas, now 3.5, was playing in the sandbox nearby. He ran over and hugged my legs, getting dirt all over my jeans. I didn't care. After the game, Brian walked me to my car. "Mom, I've been in therapy for 3 months now. Dr. Chen says I need to understand why I let Vanessa manipulate me, why I was so afraid of losing her that I was willing to lose you. And I think it's because after Dad died, I was terrified of being alone. When Vanessa came into my life, she made me feel needed, important, but it wasn't real. It was just control." He looked at me with those eyes, Robert's eyes. "I spent 6 years choosing the wrong person. And I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but I'm going to keep showing up, keep trying, keep being better. Even if you never forgive me completely. Brian, I can't promise you everything will go back to normal. It won't. Too much has happened. I know, but I can promise I'll try. For Tyler and Lucas, and maybe eventually for you. That's more than I deserve. I drove home and found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Vanessa. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single piece of paper. Emily, you won. I'm going to prison. Brian's divorcing me. I've lost everything. But I want you to know something. I never hated you. I just saw what you had and wanted it for myself. The house, the security, the love of a good man. My parents had nothing. I grew up with nothing. When I met Brian, I saw a way out. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know it was never personal. It was just business. I read it twice, then tore it into small pieces and threw it away. It was never personal. It was just business. That might have been the saddest thing I'd ever read. Because to Vanessa, love was transactional. Family was a resource to be exploited. People were just obstacles or opportunities. I'd never live that way. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went into the closet and pulled down the box of Robert's things. His watch, his ring, his glasses, his letters. I put on his watch. It was too big for my wrist, but I didn't care. Then I took out a blank piece of paper and wrote my own letter. Dear Robert, I kept my promise. I didn't let them make me small. It cost me my relationship with Brian, at least for now. It cost me my sister. It cost me the illusion of having a happy family. But it gave me something more valuable, myself. I'm 62 years old, and I'm finally learning to put myself first, to say no, to demand respect, to walk away from people who hurt me, even if they're family. You were right. Happiness matters more than usefulness. I miss you every day, but I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm free. Love always, Emily. I folded the letter and put it in the box with Robert's things. Then I made myself dinner. A real dinner, not just scrambled eggs or toast, and ate it at my table while listening to music. Later, I pulled out my phone and looked at my revised will. The house would go into a trust for Tyler and Lucas, managed by an independent trustee until they turned 25. My savings would be split, 60% for the boys' education, 30% for Brian, but only after he completed 2 years of therapy and proved financial stability, and 10% for a domestic violence shelter. Nothing for Vanessa, nothing for Carol. Some people didn't deserve second chances. My phone buzzed, a text from Brian. Thank you for coming to the game. Tyler's been talking about it all day. He wants to know when you can come over for dinner. I'm thinking maybe in a few weeks. Only if you're comfortable. I stared at that message for a long time. A few weeks. Not tomorrow. Not next Sunday. Brian was finally learning to respect my timeline. Let's see how things go, I typed back. One step at a time. One step at a time, he replied. I can do that. I set my phone down and looked around my kitchen. The same kitchen where Vanessa had called me useless, where Carol had betrayed me, where I'd cried more tears than I could count. But it was also the kitchen where Robert had kissed me every morning before work, where I'd taught Brian to make chocolate chip cookies, where Ruth and I had drunk coffee and planned my revenge. This house held pain and joy in equal measure, just like my life. Tomorrow, I'd go to my watercolor class. Next week, I'd volunteer at the hospital. Next month, maybe I'd answer when Carol called, or maybe I wouldn't. But tonight, I'd sit in my quiet house and feel something I hadn't felt in 6 years, at peace with my choices, at peace with my boundaries, at peace with the fact that some relationships die so others can live, at peace with being alone but not lonely, at peace with being 62 and finally learning that the most important person I needed to love was myself. My name is Emily Sullivan. I'm 62 years old, and this is the story of how I stopped being a doormat and started being a warrior. If you've ever felt invisible, used, or taken for granted by your own family, know this. It's never too late to fight back. It's never too late to demand respect. It's never too late to choose yourself. What would you do in my situation? Have you ever had to cut off toxic family members? Send me your story. Maybe it'll be the next one I tell. Until then, remember, family isn't who hurts you. Family is who stays after the hurt.